with your own growing in maturation, how did you end up kind of being like, I'm gonna try and end up working at Def Jam, but to be able to even mentally take that step, what was it about you that made you willing and able to do it?
I wanted to go on the other side of it because I said, let's see if this works out for me. Still being an artist, still loving what I do, still having it at heart. And I felt like I wanted to support artists at that point who might have not really got or understood, you know what I mean? And it was so strange because all the new artists would come to the office and be like, you work here? Like Method Man, Redman, you work here, you know, DMX, all of them. They will all just be like, and I was completely and 100% like, I was team artist, you know what I mean? So when I got on that side, Lyor just was like, because we kind of snuck me in there. Lyor was like, why is Nikki D working here? And I always have to do his voice. I love Lyor. It's like, why is Nikki D working here? It's like, cause she wants a job. She wants to work here. She wants to be on the other side of it. Artists don't like to work. They won't work at labels. It won't work out. And it worked out just fine. I started off working with Rhonda Cowan, who did video promotions back then. And then I worked in PR a little bit. And then I wound up working ultimately with Lyor. And then they went to 825 8th Avenue. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna. Then I wound up going to labor unit after that. And then Lyor actually offered me to come back and work with him directly a few years later. And my son was still pretty young then. And I felt like I just didn't want to dip out and be that parent who hires 2 nannies and work 24 hours and still make all this wonderful money, but I still wanted to kind of just be a parent. So I didn't really like the whole idea of, because I know what it's like to work for Lyor. You have to like pack your emotions up and just come to work. I think that's what anybody that is in that has that kind of, you know, who has that kind of status in the industry. Like if you're a Lyor or a Russell and they wake up and they're like 3 in the morning, oh, I gotta go to such and such, and they call your phone. Meanwhile, you're like, what am I gonna do with my kid at 3 in the morning? You know what I mean? Like, who am I gonna? And you don't want to just be calling your family or the father, or whatever, like, hey, can you blah, 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 blah. It's like, I know what it is, you know? And I just wanted to be more of a parent, I guess, back then at that point. So, but being on that side, I learned a whole bunch. Like I sat through, I actually worked with the administrator. I did some of the administration with, like, I wasn't the attorney, but all of the paperwork, all the things for the Roc-A-Fella deal, even Rough Riders, like I sat through all of that stuff. You know, I even, when Foxy Brown signed to the label, all of that. I was there for all of that. It was just all very, I was there when, you know, LL and Def Jam had their falling out, but listen, you can't shut the king down. The king turned the lights on in this building.
Yes,
so yeah, you know, they figured that out, but you know, I watched it all happen. It's all been a beautiful experience. That's why to this day, when it comes to my son, who is also an artist now, he's having a lot tougher time than me because it's different.
Right.
You know, they want numbers, they want numbers, they want numbers. What is your social media doing? What is this doing? Unlike back in the day where you just outside with your demo, like, yo, I'm telling you, I got it. And then it's like, you see them every day. You see somebody like 4 or 5 times after that, you're like, come upstairs. Today it's not like that. Like, send me your social media, send me an email, text me your Spotify or whatever, you know what I mean, your DSPs, let me see what's what. It's different today. So I'm glad that I was actually able to do that because that also grounded me too a little bit, gave me a little bit more insight on always knowing how to do things regardless of what the situation is. But some things will never change. Marketing will always be in play. It's just how you market. Some things will never change. Promotion will always be in play. It's just how, you know? So the tools now are different. They're all digital.
And what's the hardest thing, or what are some things that your son has found difficult, and break down who he is for people that don't know and how they can find him? But beyond that, how Like, where do you guys ever have a disconnect of him not understanding the business of it the way that you do? Like, what happened?
Absolutely. Oh my God. He calls me old school all the time. But his name is Chi, and he actually had a single deal on E1. He actually had a song called, he has a song called Tag 'Em In. And then we did a remix for Method Man, which is pretty dope. His name is, he's on Instagram as Chi. Before I break down this, I'll just give out the name real quick. He's on Instagram as Chi Guap God. So Chi, this is the way you spell it, Chichi Guap, GWAP God, God. And he, we're always running into this thing where I tell him, listen, you have to do more content on your social media. You have to do more. You have to get up. You have to pull people into, you know, who you are. Like, you have to give them stuff that's not just, you can't just wake up and be like, here's my song, go buy it. Hey, I'm dope, check me out. It just doesn't work like that. And I told him, no matter what it is, you constantly have to be feeding these people. And I cannot build your social media for you. Back then, like I was just saying before, a connect is a connect. Today, connect is not a connect. So I could be connected to Russell, but Russell's gonna tell me, well, you know, where's his numbers at, you know? And if before, we'll gather all the music for me first. You know, nobody wants to now just walk through a door and co-sign, unlike back in the day. So I tell him, you have to stand out. The difference, that the one thing that made everybody different back then and why you knew who was who is because I could look at LL Cool J and tell you he wasn't Slick Rick. I could look at Duck Down and tell you there wasn't Smif-N-Wessun. I could look at Gangster and tell you there wasn't Public Enemy. I could look at MC Lyte and tell you it wasn't Queen Latifah. You have to have a difference of image, even though you want to be familiar. But you still, in order for you to win, you have to stand out. Like, you don't have to be the guy that's always with the grills and the jewelry and the big belt buckles. And, you know, even though we had our style, but you still knew who was who. There was, today, you just like, who, which one? And unless you really know hip hop and you really know what you're listening to, if you're just somebody who just, even back then, the people who didn't get into it, like the church people, if you will, because they couldn't stand hip hop back then, you know, the guy, the pastor in Harlem who went and rolled over the CDs in the street.
Calvin Butts.
Yeah, Calvin Butts. Look, hey Calvin, look at them now. But anyway, doesn't mean it's a great thing, but just look at us now. We always have a disconnect when it comes to individuality, because I always say that wins, no matter what. And always the idea of being anxious. Like, I try to tell him, I went through the idea of being too anxious. We put out a record too soon and it jacked the album up. There's no wine before it's time, right? So it's a little, for those who might not be getting that, it's, you don't have to rush greatness. You really do not. A good record is a good record. This is why, even 30 years later for me, but even further out for a lot of other artists that were out back then, you still play those songs and you remember what you were doing when they came out. You remember how you felt when it came out. You remember what, you know what I mean? It's just, they all stick to you. I'm not saying that these kids today won't have that same thing happening for them in 10 years. I believe they will. But again, individuality is probably the one thing that we go back and forth with. And within the music industry, it's just so different. I keep telling them, listen, there's no way you're going to win the way we won back when. It doesn't work like that. The cosign is still the same. Yeah, of course. But the cosign has to be signing you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like the cosign will be like, oh yeah, he's dope, go ahead. The cosign got to get a check. You know, it's different today. So he has to work a lot harder. He just does, because we don't have the funds that you need to fluidly push an album out there. And the difference is, a lot of these cats that are on, a lot of them they get it from street money, whatever they decided to do with it, however they got it from whatever they were doing. And my son is not that guy in the street, like getting all that money. You know what I mean? So it's like, we do what we can.
Yes. So then what are you working on now that you want to let people know about?
Oh, it's cool. I'm waiting for the letter to come in though, but you know, I just got invited to be an ambassador for the Hip Hop Museum that's out in the Bronx. So I'm excited about that. I'll be doing that Huh? Thank you. I'll be doing that for
Graduation?
the next 2 years. I just dropped, I call it dry dropping. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I dropped a single called Going For It. And I put it out through DistroKid, and it's on all platforms. It's on Spotify, it's on iTunes. It's called Going For It. And Going For It is, guess what? One of those songs where you tell a story. And it's got, it's basically, now that's more of me today, I'll say, because Going For It is, you know, you sit around and you know you've gone through all these things and people keep telling you you're too old and you know, and then you've had bad relationships and then you realize you was famous at one time and you had this money and now you don't have anything. And it's like you go through all these different levels in life and then you get to a point where you might be like, well, you know what, maybe I should just chill. And then you'd be like, nah, I'm just gonna go for it. Because what else is there? If you're not living, then you're dead, right? So that's basically what Going For It is. And we're going to shoot a video for that. We'll do a video for it and everything. I'm going to shoot that within the next couple of weeks. And I'm also working on the documentary because there is a story. There's so much story in Nikki D that the story is more so about everything that I went through to get where I was. We just did like what they used to call it shorthand, like quick text. Instead of saying laughing out loud, we're going to go LOL. So we just did the whole short text of, you know, there's so much more to tell. We're going to do that as well. We're going to looking to do like an 8-part series, almost like I like to look at Colin Kaepernick's story kind of that way because I love how he did it on Netflix. He did like an 8-episode series. Like I think that's kind of the way Netflix likes to do stuff too, anyway. But I like that, so I'm looking at that to be more of a mini series, and that's pretty much it for right now. You know. And managing my son and trying, you know, I got some people right now who went out to LA with his stuff. So we'll see what happens. He's out in Atlanta right now working with Mace. So he's got some people that he's connected to. Again, you know, the cosigns are there, but it's like it just doesn't, it's not as easy as it used to be. So
Yeah.
but we're optimistic. He's great, he's dope. Like I wouldn't even be dealing with him if he wasn't. It's like your father makes Mercedes and you bring him a Pinto. He don't want you to be working with no Pinto. You know what I mean? Like, and for those who, I'm saying these things that are like 100 years old, they're like, what is a Pinto? It's like saying Datsun, right? Do you know what a Datsun is, Soren?
I do. It was
Okay.
the old Nissan.
Nissan. There you go. Right.
Yes.
So you know, I wouldn't be co-signing my son if I didn't think he had it. I'd tell him like maybe you should really just go to school, be something else. But he's really dope and he's got it. It's just that he feels like he has time racing against him. And that's the other thing that I plan on doing when I get with the museum is to help preserve the culture. Because I feel like the culture is kind of all over the place. And I think we keep removing the history. And once you continue to move the history, you just kind of keep washing and washing and washing to all you do is get to where you are and you forget where you came from. And when it comes to such a huge culture, you have to know where it started from because it doesn't even start from like a cool hurt. Like it goes so far back. And I feel like we don't really get that. And when you have the younger generation or today's generation, you get a lot of, oh, the OGs, they need to be quiet, or the OGs don't help nobody, or the OGs this, and you get the OGs like, oh, that ain't music. It is music. It is the evolution of it. So we can't act like what we have is come on, you still want to be you still want to put in the plug and try to get your computer to come on and try to go online. You still want that? No, you don't want that. I'm not saying that we don't want the old school music. We want to preserve it though. We want people to know that it matters, that everything comes from somewhere. So I would like to get into like, you know, doing more philanthropic stuff and getting out there and going to schools and doing maybe possibly, you know, seminars, if you will, or just workshops, you know, something where people can see it. Because I think the problem in hip hop today is a lot of ignorance, and not, you know, as in dumb or stupid, because you know what ignorant means. It means that you just don't have knowledge of it. So if you don't know, then how are you gonna understand it, you know? And maybe you'll look at it a little bit different, and you might want to preserve it a little bit longer too, because while you P today, you player, that's cool. Because in 10 years, you're not gonna be a P. It's not gonna, like, it's gonna move so fast that you're gonna be like, oh, that ain't what it used to be for us. But hey, so my goal is to preserve the culture. That's really what I like to do.
Well, there it is. Well, Nikki D, thanks so much for coming through to Unique Access. It's been great speaking with you. I'm glad you decided to come through. So thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Soren. And thanks for, having some patience today. I appreciate it.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
It would be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Your MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.